Well, folks, it seems we've now entered the stage of the market where non-core assets are being sold off by the miners. But rather than sell because they're hard up for cash or liquidity, now they're selling because these assets are going for top dollar, which of course is a positive sign for the sector as a whole. The latest transaction of this manner comes from Aris Mining, whom has sold off their Juby Gold project in Ontario to a name that appears to be going through a bit of a refresh. Folks, let's dive in. Aris Mining is selling off a non-core asset, which is found outside of their region of focus. The Juby Gold project, acquired back in 2020 when Aris was still known as Juby Gold, is based in Ontario, Canada, within the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which is more than a few miles away from their current area of focus in Latin America. The project was initially acquired by Aris in exchange for the issuance of 20 million shares, as well as $10 million in cash, which also bought Aris a 25% interest in some adjoining claims. Well, outside of Colombia, the project at the time of acquisition was framed as being a pipeline project for future growth while providing geographic diversification. Months later, a new management team was put in place. And well, fast forward a few years, and it seems that Aris is much less focused on geographical diversity. In fact, when we inquired with the company about what led to the sale, the response we received is that Juby is based outside of LATAM. It's also non-core, and given that they want to build a leading gold miner in Latin America, it no longer fits within the Aris portfolio of assets. Which, fair enough. Anyways, Juby Gold has been acquired by a junior explorer co. by the name of McFarlane Lake Mining, which is helmed by Mark Trevesiel, who is also a VP at Electra Battery Materials and seems to be a bit of an expert in the area of nickel. Obviously, Juby Gold is gold, but there seems to be some degree of experience within the mining sector overall here, which is more than most explorer co's can say. Let's take a bit of a look at the property here. Found 15 kilometers to the west of Gaganda, Ontario, the Juby Gold project 4 years ago was defined by Aris as being an advanced staged exploration project with plenty of access to nearby infrastructure given the prevalence of mining within the Abitibi region. More specifically, the property is in the southern portion of the Abitibi and is also about 70 kilometers down the road from IM Gold's Cote mine and Alamo's Young-Davidson mine. Covering over 14,000 acres, the project extends for about 11 kilometers east-west and 9.5 kilometers north-south. 4 major zones contain gold mineralization here, referred to as the Juby Main, Golden Lake, Big Dome, and Hydro Creek Lacarte zones. Despite Aris seemingly only conducting a single 10,000-meter, 26-hole drill campaign on the project since their purchase of the property, historical exploration here is actually quite extensive, with Juby as of the end of 2021 boasting a total of 405 drill holes across 117,000 meters in aggregate. To add to it, there's also fairly substantial resources here. At least there's enough to make a reasonably sized mine out of a project if one wished. A 2020 mineral resource estimate outlined that Juby contains 773,000 ounces of gold at 1.13 grams per ton within the indicated category, and a further 1.49 million ounces of gold at 0.98 grams per ton gold within the inferred category across those 4 zones, all of which was contained in an open pit shell model. Drilling in 2021 also showed promise for further ounces to be added to the resource, with intercepts that include 1.03 grams per ton gold over 24.1 meters, 1.18 grams per ton gold over 54.5 meters, and 3.04 grams per ton gold over 12.6 meters, to name a few. So plenty of expansion potential by the looks of things at a high level. But despite the potential here, the project simply didn't meet Aris's parameters. All right, so what do the terms of the asset sale look like here? McFarlane Lake has agreed to acquire Juby as well as the 25% interest in adjacent claims for total consideration of $22 million, which is to be paid for in a mix of cash and shares. In terms of cash, $10 million is payable upon closing to Aris, which basically reimburses them for that initial price paid half a decade ago. That's of course if we don't factor in inflation. And then the balance of consideration payable will be paid out in McFarlane stock, up to a maximum of 19.9% of McFarlane's post-financing share capital, which is to be issued at the same price of the associated $10 million financing. On top of that, if the $22 million purchase price isn't settled by those shares, McFarlane has 12 months to settle the remainder owed, which can be paid out in cash or shares, provided Aris in aggregate holds no more than 19.9% of McFarlane. Aris notably doesn't have any rights in terms of board representation or top-up rights. And when we inquired, they said their investment is only subject to statutory hold periods, which normally means 4 months. The transaction, unsurprisingly, is conditional upon McFarlane raising $10 million in gross proceeds from a concurrent financing. The transaction is expected to close within roughly 90 days. All right, so let's wrap it up. By all accounts and the price tag, it looks like Juby will become the flagship of McFarlane on a go-forward basis. But if we're being honest here, the company looks a bit too much like a classic junior mining story. A bit underfunded, management has some history in the industry, they've done some drilling, but they haven't managed to ignite investor excitement. The biggest challenge here will be raising $10 million. McFarlane has a market cap of 16 million Canadian, which has been boosted a bit by this Juby development, which translates to about 12 million US, which basically means current shareholders are about to be blown out to conduct the raise. And then they're going to be blown out again upon the issuance of just under 20% of their cap table to Aris. So whether the transaction actually closes remains to be seen. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. As you can see, I'm back here in the studio bringing you guys the heat. We're going to be bringing you guys stories every day. But if you haven't checked it out, last week we were in Florida walking around in the heat, walking around in a suit all covered in sweat, going to Chick-fil-A. Anyways, if you want some mining stories, check out our channel. We've got some great interviews with the likes of Rob McEwen. We got Hushan Ruzin, Rudy Frank from Seabridge, which is a name that you guys know I love, and a whole lot more. So check out our channel if you want some of those great interviews from just last week. And guys, if there's stories you want us to cover, as always, please let us know in the comment section. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.